Okay, let's dive in. Trigger sprayers. Yeah, those things, on your cleaning bottles, maybe hair products, garden stuff.
Right. Seems pretty everyday, doesn't it? Just a plastic nozzle.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But hold on, because this market report we have from Cognitive Market Research, it paints a really surprisingly dynamic picture of this whole sector.
It really does. It's fascinating how something so, ubiquitous, something we use all the time, is actually part of this significant global industry. And it's seeing real growth, real innovation.
Absolutely. So our mission here is pretty straightforward. We want to dig into this report, pull out the key insights, the most important bits of information, specifically for you listening in.
Hmm.
We'll look at the global picture, the numbers, find out where the hotspots are, what's actually driving the growth.
And what's holding it back, too, right?
Yeah, exactly. The challenges. And then some really interesting trends. Sustainability, new designs. You might be surprised by some of the numbers.
Okay, so let's kick off with that big picture, the global market snapshot. This report puts the value at USD 528.65 million back in 2025.
Over $500 million
Yeah,
just for trigger sprayers? That probably raises some eyebrows.
right. And it's not static. The forecast sees it growing pretty substantially, expected to hit USD 836.249 million by 2033.
Yeah, and that growth translates to a compound annual growth rate, a CGR of 5.90% between 2025 and 2033.
Okay, CAGR. Break that down simply for us.
Sure, so that 5.9% CGR, it basically means the market's expected to grow by almost 6% each year, on average, over that whole period. It's a sign of pretty steady, consistent expansion, quite healthy, really, for this kind of market.
Wow, almost 6% growth a year for trigger sprayers. That feels genuinely strong. It really underlines how essential these little things are, doesn't it, across so many products?
Yeah.
So speaking of that growth, the report gets into the key drivers. What's actually pushing these numbers up? Well, the main drivers that the report points to, they're really tied into, fundamental needs, both consumer and industrial, that have gotten more focus lately.
Okay, driver number one, growing demand for household and industrial cleaning products.
Hmm.
The report explicitly links this to hygiene awareness,
Mm-hmm.
even mentioning the COVID-19 pandemic, boosting demand for disinfectants, sanitizers, stuff that often uses these sprayers, plus regulations pushing hygiene standards.
Exactly. I mean, the basic need to clean effectively, whether it's your home kitchen or a commercial space, that directly fuels demand for the tools that apply the cleaners.
Mm.
And trigger sprayers, they offer that controlled application people want.
Okay. And driver two, the expansion of personal care and cosmetics. I'll admit I didn't immediately think of trigger sprayers here, but the source highlights hair care, skin care, body care.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about it.
Because of the convenience, the
Yeah.
controlled spray.
Yeah.
And apparently brands are focusing on innovative, sustainable packaging here too. Plus, organic cosmetics, e-commerce growth,
Yeah.
it all adds up.
Right. Think about things like facial mists, body sprays, maybe some hair treatments where you want a really fine, even mist, or maybe a targeted stream. The trigger format works really well for that.
Oh,
And, as more of this stuff is sold online, you need packaging that won't leak. Robust design, like a good trigger sprayer, becomes even more vital for shipping.
makes sense. The report also gives a quick mention to gardening and agriculture as another driver, which, yeah, that tracks. Weed killers, plant food, standard stuff.
Okay.
But even with this healthy growth, there are always hurdles. What about the restraints? What did the report say might be holding things back a bit?
The report highlights two main challenges, basically, that manufacturers and the whole market need to deal with.
First one, fluctuating raw material prices. Makes total sense, right? Plastics, polypropylene, polyethylene, metal parts,
Yeah.
but they depend on things like petroleum. Prices can be all over the place.
Exactly. That price volatility. And then you layer on things like supply chain snags, geopolitical issues, maybe new regulations about materials. It creates real instability in manufacturing costs.
Yeah, I bet.
So for the companies making these sprayers, just managing those input costs is a constant balancing act.
And the second restraint mentioned, environmental concerns, regulations around plastic waste. No surprise there.
Yeah, that's a massive issue for packaging generally, isn't it? I mean, with all the focus on plastic pollution, manufacturers are under pressure from consumers, from environmental groups, from governments, even from their own customers, the brands buying the sprayers.
So they have to find more sustainable options.
They really do, or at least show they're seriously working on it. It often means big investments, changes in how they make things.
This leads us perfectly into the big market trends the report talks about. Because sustainability, clearly a huge driver of innovation right now.
Absolutely. It's a very strong trend. We're seeing manufacturers actively looking for and using more sustainable, more eco-friendly materials. Things like recyclable options, using post-consumer recycled PCR plastics, exploring bio-based resins.
And the report gives actual examples, like Berry Global. They've apparently made a removable trigger sprayer for refillable bottles. Uses, what, 29% PCR plastic? And it's lighter, too.
Yeah, 18% weight reduction, it says. And Silgan Dispensing gets a mention, too, for their SPRO5R sprayer using their life cycle technology. Another clear sign of designing sustainability right into the product.
That's great.
And beyond just the materials, you see lightweight designs becoming more common. And this big push from brands and consumers for refillable options. It's all about reducing that single-use plastic footprint.
It's genuinely cool to see that level of innovation, even for something like a trigger sprayer, addressing these big environmental issues. Okay, another trend mentioned, customizable and innovative design. Sounds like they're becoming more than just functional bits.
That's right. The report talks about a real focus on improving the user experience. So things like more ergonomic handles, easier to hold, more comfortable, adjustable spray patterns.
Oh, like switching between mist and stream.
Exactly. Mist, stream, maybe even foam, depending on the product, makes them more versatile. And better leak-proof mechanisms really crucial, obviously, for consumers and for shipping.
I saw mentions of like color-coded nozzles, logos embossed on them, personalized labels. Brands are definitely using the sprayer itself to stand out.
For sure. And it even touches on emerging smart sprayer tech, things like touchless or battery-powered options, which kind of hints at a future where dispensing gets, well, more sophisticated, maybe integrated into smart homes or offering more precision for industrial uses.
Okay, let's break down the market the way the report does. Segmentation. First up, by type.
Right, so the main split here is between standard trigger sprayers and chemical-resistant ones.
And the standard ones, they're dominant. Makes sense. Cheaper, easy to use, work for most everyday things like cleaners, air fresheners.
Yep, their compatibility, their cost-effectiveness, that makes them the leader right now. But interestingly, the report flags the chemical-resistant sprayers as the fastest-growing segment.
Huh. Okay, that's a neat contrast. The steady leader versus the booming niche. Why are those chemical-resistant ones taking off so fast?
It's really down to rising demand in sectors using tougher substances. Think industrial cleaning, agriculture, the automotive sector.
Ah, okay. Places needing something heavy-duty.
Exactly. These sprayers are built differently. More durable materials designed to handle corrosive stuff, strong disinfectants, pesticides, certain fertilizers, automotive chemicals, stuff that would just eat away at a standard sprayer pretty quickly. So their durability, performance, and especially being leak-resistant are absolutely critical.
Next up, segmentation by neck size. Before we get into the numbers, what exactly does neck size mean here for the bottle and sprayer?
Good question. Just think about the top of the bottle where the sprayer screws on. The neck size is basically the diameter of that opening and the specific thread pattern. It's a standard measurement, really important to make sure the sprayer fits snugly and doesn't leak.
Gotcha. Okay. So the report says 208-410 neck size has the biggest market share.
That's right. The 280410 is, well, kind of the industry workhorse. It's compatible with a huge range of bottle sizes and types across loads of different applications, cleaners, personal care, you name it.
So it's the most common.
Yeah, and that standardization makes manufacturing easier too and helps ensure that good, secure fit.
But the fastest growing neck size segment is the 2410.
Its growth is also tied to compatibility and convenience, but the report specifically links its rise to that increasing demand for sustainable packaging, especially refillable designs.
Ah, interesting connection.
Yeah, as brands develop new bottles designed for refilling, the 24410 neck size is apparently a popular choice, and that's driving its faster growth rate.
Now application. Where are most trigger sprayers actually ending up?
Unsurprisingly, the home care segment has the biggest slice of the pie, by far. Just think about the sheer volume of household cleaning products, disinfectants, air fresheners.
All the stuff under the kitchen sink.
Pretty much, all relying on trigger sprayers. And again, that heightened focus on hygiene we talked about has definitely boosted this category.
Makes sense. But the fastest growing application? Skincare. Really?
Yep. Skincare, like those facial mists and body sprays we mentioned earlier.
Right.
The segment's growing fast because there's more demand for personal care products that need that precise, controlled dispensing, often a fine mist. Consumers like it for toners, soothing sprays, even some foundations now come in spray form.
Oh.
And brands are responding with, innovative, sometimes quite stylish sprayer designs for this market, especially with the boom in multi-step skincare routines and natural or organic products.
Okay, last segmentation. Distribution channel. How are these things actually getting to market?
Well, the offline channel, that's your traditional retail, supermarkets, hypermarkets, specialty shops that currently holds the largest market share.
Which makes sense. You usually buy the final product, sprayer attached, in the physical store.
Right. Those physical distribution networks are just huge. And don't forget, industrial users, agricultural users, they often buy sprayers in bulk, maybe direct from suppliers or wholesalers. That's offline too.
Okay. But not a huge shock, the fastest growing segment is online.
Following the trend we see everywhere, really, e-commerce just offers convenience, offering a wider selection, maybe competitive pricing, doorstep delivery.
Yeah.
It's appealing to consumers, maybe some business buyers too. And the report notes that the big shift towards online shopping in recent years has definitely boosted this channel for trigger sprayers as well.
All right, let's shift to geography. Where's the market biggest right now, and where's the fastest action happening?
Okay, so according to the report, North America is currently the dominant force, holds the biggest share, over 40% of global revenue. That was valued at USD 153.31 million in 2025.
Over 40%. That's a massive chunk. Why is North America leading by so much?
It's put down to just high demand across the board. Home care, personal care, industrial sectors are all big there. Plus, you have that strong focus on hygiene, especially after the pandemic. There's also the presence of leading manufacturers, advanced packaging tech, and really established retail and e-commerce channels.
Yeah, it's still growing.
Yeah, projected at a solid 4.4% CAGR through 2033. The U.S. is the biggest single market within that, but Canada actually shows a slightly higher growth rate, driven partly by e-commerce. Mexico's significant too.
Okay, what about Europe?
Europe's number 2, holding over 30% share, valued at USD 126.88 million in 2025. And its growth rate is pretty similar to North America's, projected at 4.5% CAGR.
Key countries there.
Germany is the largest market. The UK shows strong growth, particularly linked to demand for eco-friendly options. Then you've got France, Italy, Russia, Spain, all contributing significantly.
Now, Asia Pacific, APAC. The report pegs its share around 23%, valued at USD 195.60 million in 2025. So
Yeah.
smaller share currently than North America or Europe, but it calls it the fastest growing region.
Yes, that's the big headline for APAC, rapid acceleration. It's projected to grow at a really significant 7.8% CAGR. That's much higher than North America or Europe.
Wow, why such fast growth there?
It's a combination of things, really. Rapid industrialization happening across the region, increasing demand for consumer goods, home care, personal care, agriculture as disposable incomes rise and more people move to cities.
Urbanization effect.
Exactly. Plus, the region has major manufacturing hubs, often offering cost-effective production. And interestingly, growing environmental awareness and regulations there might actually be speeding up the adoption of newer, sustainable sprayer designs. They might sort of leapfrog some older tech.
That makes a lot of sense. More people needing more products, plus the capacity to make them, maybe jumping straight to better designs. China's the biggest market there.
China's the largest, yeah.
Yeah.
But India actually shows an even higher projected growth rate, 9.7% CAGR. That's one of the highest mentioned for any country. South Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, they're all part of this rapid regional expansion.
What about other regions? Quickly.
Sure. South America holds over 5% share, growing at a healthy 6.2% CAGR. Brazil leads there, with eco-awareness being a factor. Argentina's growing fast too, linked to urbanization. The Middle East has around 2% share, going at 6.4% CAGR. Saudi Arabia is the biggest market. Turkey showing strong growth tied to retail and e-commerce.
And Africa?
Africa's around 1% share, growing at 5.6% CAGR. South Africa is the main market, but places like Nigeria are growing too, again linked to urbanization and a rising middle class.
It's really striking, isn't it, that difference in growth speed? North America, the big established player today, but APAC is clearly where the real acceleration is,
Yeah.
driven by those different underlying factors compared to the more mature markets.
Okay, changing gears slightly. The competitive landscape. Even for trigger sprayers, sounds like it's pretty crowded.
Oh, it is. The report definitely calls it highly competitive. You've got the big global players, sure, but there's also a lot of competition from smaller manufacturers. They often specialize maybe in certain types of sprayers or offer very customized solutions.
The report lists some specific names. Berry Global, Silgan Dispensing Systems, Apter Group, Mr. Nozzle, Cole Parmer, Frapack, CL Smith. Others too. Yeah, it's a mix. Some huge multinational packaging giants and some possibly more niche suppliers. And all those trends we talked about, sustainability, customization, the shift online, they're all shaping how these companies compete and what they need to innovate on.
And just finally, the table of contents in the source hints at some deeper analysis in the full report, stuff we didn't dig into fully today.
Right. These are the kinds of analyses that give you broader context, a bigger framework beyond just the market numbers and trends we focused on.
It mentions things like looking at the impact of specific events, like Trump's tariff war, and standard business tools like pestle analysis.
Yeah, political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental factors.
Right. And Porter's Five Forces, which looks at industry competition and ESG analysis.
Exactly. For
Yeah.
environmental, social, governance factors. These tools help explore the external pressures, the competitive dynamics inside the industry, and those wider societal and environmental issues that shape the market. It gives a more holistic view than just the numbers alone.
Makes sense. And our goal today was really to pull out the key takeaways from this specific source material, which I think we've done. So let's try and wrap this up for you, the listener. Key takeaways. The trigger sprayers market. Well, it's bigger than you might guess. Over $500 million back in 2025 and growing steadily.
And that growth is really powered by demand for everyday stuff, household cleaners, personal care products, plus essential uses in industry and agriculture.
And we've seen it's definitely not a static market. There's real innovation happening, especially driven by that push for sustainability and also towards better designs, more features for the user.
Geographically, North America holds the crown for size right now, but keep an eye on Asia Pacific. That's where the fastest growth is projected, showing where a lot of future opportunity probably lies.
It really is a fascinating peek into a sector that's literally right under our fingertips every day, but has these complex global forces and constant evolution behind it. So just a final thought to leave you with based on what we've discussed. Thinking about that strong push for sustainable and refillable options. How might the future role of the trigger sprayer change? Could it move from being just a disposable add-on to something more integrated, maybe reusable, perhaps even smart as part of the whole product experience? And on the other side, what does that rapid growth of specialized chemical-resistant sprayers tell us about how industrial and agricultural practices might be evolving and the increasing need for really durable, specific dispensing solutions in those fields? Something to think about.